The Maya people. Most people know them for the calendar that supposedly predicted the end of the world. Since you're watching this, that means the world probably didn't end. So what other facts are there about these people? The Mayans' empire was a vast area that took up the eastern part of Mexico, all of Belize and Guatemala, as well as the western parts of El Salvador and the Honduras. The Mayans were known for agriculture and craftsmanship, had one of the most sophisticated forms of writing amongst the people of the time period. During the height of their power, the Mayans also had 70 different dialects in their language. They developed mathematics as well as a calendar that went off 365 days in a year, developed major city-states, and established trade and commerce between their various cities. The first major Mayan cities were built in 750 BC, and the empire thrived until around 900 AD, when the Mayan people declined and almost disappeared. The history of the Mayans began in what is known as the pre-classic period, which generally takes place between 2000 BC until around 250 AD. It was during these early days that the Mayan people began to develop villages. They established their agricultural systems in which they grew corn, beans, chili peppers, and squash. The earliest forms of the Maya script was also being used at this time, and the people erected monuments of significant times and dates. From these simple villages, larger urban centers began to grow, with the Mayans establishing Nakbe, Takalik, Abaj, Chocola, and Caminalhu. The city of El Mirador was one of the largest the Mayans had ever built, covering 6.2 square miles. What followed was known as the Classic Period, a time where the Mayans were at the height of their civilization. From 250 to 900 AD, they made great strides in arts, mathematics, and written language. The Mayan people were at the height of their urban development, with their populations reaching 50,000 in some cities. Society was divided amongst the noble elite and the commoners. Royalty was considered to be a demigod that acted as a middle ground between the people and their deities. The major cities were ruled by kings who would control other smaller cities within their territory. Because of this, depending on who had more influence, the majority of Mayan people would be ruled by different dynasties throughout their history. By around 900 BC, the Mayan people as a whole began to experience a collapse. There are numerous theories about what eventually brought on the downfall of the Mayan people. Mayan scholars believe that it was a combination of things. Overpopulation in urban areas led to the overfarming of the land and deforestation. On top of the overfarming, there is evidence of disease going through the crops as well as a drought, which could have led to a shortage of food. Warfare also could have contributed to the downfall, with the various kings and dynasties constantly fighting with one another. Regardless of the reasons, by 900 AD, many of the Mayan cities had been abandoned, with the people migrating into the northern territories. Trade routes shifted, and many of the major buildings of the great cities, places that had been populated for thousands of years, became home to squatters. What followed was a period of decline for the Mayan people. War continued, but no major rulers took power during this time, and the area lacked any real political powers until the rise of the city of Mayapan in the 1200s. Yet, this city was also abandoned by the mid-1400s. With the arrival of the Spanish in the 1500s, the Mayan people tried to protect their lands. But the Spanish brought with them gunpowder and disease, and the last free Mayan city fell in 1697. The descendants of the Mayan people still live in the lands of their ancestors to this day, from Yucatan to Honduras. From European conquest, the Mayan traditions were mixed with those of Catholics and Christians, creating a religious hybrid. Tireless work is being made to examine and preserve the ancient sites of the Mayan people, so that their history may not be lost to the world.